So did they make the right call in the Gorda board to bring her and make her testify or have her testify?
I think absolutely the right call. I think this jury had to hear from her about why she made the choices she made and how she's processing it and feeling about it now.
And Cheryl Dorsey in Los Angeles, what's your take on her testimony? You've seen some of the cross, some of the direct. How did she do?
Well, listen, I think she needed to testify because I think they wanted to hear from her in her own words. And the fact that she said she was scared, that's her story. She's sticking to it. But is it reasonable? If you think someone is in your home, whether you're on duty, off duty, armed or not, police, civilian, you don't enter a residence. And if you don't know whether or not they're armed, you don't shoot and kill them first and figure it out later.
Also joining us to talk about this morning and to watch the trial is Scott Major, a lawyer in Fort Lauderdale. Scott, what's your position on this in terms of how Amber Guyger did? It's always a tough call for defense lawyers to put their clients on the stand.
Sure. I mean, I think that it was absolutely required for her to have any chance of an acquittal. I agree with the former sergeant that, you can't shoot somebody and then try to justify it later. She easily could have backed out of the home, out of the apartment. She probably should have done that. The mere fact that you shoot somebody doesn't give you an absolute right of defense. I do agree that Texas law does give some benefit of the doubt to a person who's using the weapon, but you have to demonstrate that you're in reasonable fear of your life. Not sure she did an adequate job of that, although I do think she was a sympathetic witness and her emotion did sound as though she was really convicted in her belief that it was a mistake. I'm just not sure that because it's a mistake in her mind, it's going to give her the benefit of the doubt in front of the jury when she intentionally or at least recklessly discharged that weapon when she probably didn't have to.
And Scott, as a legal matter, would it make much difference if in fact it was her apartment that she'd walked into?
Well, again, it's more helpful if it's your apartment. But as the former sergeant aptly pointed out, you have to have some reasonable fear of your life. You don't get to use your gun and then get to justify it in the end. As I mentioned last time I was on, I have a father who's a judge, I have a brother who's a cop. I'm not running to the defense of a police officer merely because they shot somebody. They have to have a justifiable, a reasonable belief that they're in fear of their life to discharge the weapon and to kill somebody. This is a very serious thing. And I think while she is a sympathetic witness, she's got some challenges ahead of her. I think that taking the stand was a critically helpful thing. I think that she was emotional and it was helpful. I think that, it would have been nice to have had some of the other testimony that would have been favorable for her. But I do think that she did an adequate job in her situation and absolutely had to take the stand to have any chance of an acquittal or at least a lesser included defense.
And Nicole DeBorda, when you look at this, you're always looking at the person on trial. The person who's dead is sort of forgotten by the jury. It's important for the prosecution to remind them of who it was she shot.
Absolutely. I mean, they really have to keep bringing home, this is a human being that many people loved, was a good person, and they don't want the jurors to forget about this. They don't, because it helps highlight just how serious it is. This is not just some police shooting scene. This is a scene where a human being died, and the prosecution wants to keep that at the forefront of these jurors' minds.
And Cheryl Dorsey, from the point of view of the jury watching all this, you've been on trial, you've been a witness before as a police officer. Try to give us a sense of what the jury's thinking. As we said, the makeup is 5 black jurors, 5 Latin Asian jurors, and 2 white jurors. How does that figure into this?
Well, listen, and again, 8 of them are women. And so, there's been a lot of salacious testimony about the extramarital affair, about, what they were texting and doing moments before she arrived at the complex, what they were expecting to do, she and Martin Rivera, if she could have gotten him to come on over like she was asking him to do. And so, all of that is going to play a part in, was she distracted because of the sexting and the texting with Martin Rivera, or was she, or should she, more importantly, have relied on her training as an experience as a police officer to help her through that very stressful situation? Because that's what we do. In stressful situations, we rely on our training.
And in this case, her training perhaps was not adequate, or she broke the protocol.
Well, I'm of the opinion that she broke protocol because, listen, intent can be formed in a second. And when she unholstered her weapon, she formed the intent to do exactly what she testified to doing, firing a double tap, rapid succession, center ring to the heart to kill. It's a problem.
Well, clearly there
Somebody who
is,
she didn't know
and
who
we're
was
about 15, 17 minutes away from the beginning, the resumption of the trial in Dallas, Texas, and we'll be going there live once it started. We'll be back after break. You're watching the Law and Crime Trial Network. Stay with us.